Hey folks, I'm Avram here for AE Tuts, and today I have got a very sweet tutorial for you. Today we're gonna create a three-dimensional futuristic ground or terrain scanner. So first let's have a quick preview of what we're gonna be creating today. Okay, so frankly, most of the stuff you've seen here is just knickknacks, just a simple opacity flicker in preset that I use often, which I created, that will be included in the project file. The text that's writing itself in is an expression which you can find on AE Tuts. It's a text preset by Jorid Scholl. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And anyway, it's a great preset and it combines very well with the whole scene. What we are going to really focus on today is the actual scanner, the terrain scanner here. So let's jump right into it. Let's open it up. The 3D extrusion map is combined out of our color map named 3D map. To it we applied the freeform AE effect. For this tutorial I'm going to use both the DigiFX freeform, which is the older version that is bundled with After Effects CS5, and I'm also going to use freeform AE version 2, which is a whole lot faster than the older version. And under that we have a black and white displacement map, which is obviously in charge of the displacing. And we got a nice scanner here and other knickknacks and paddywhacks. So let's delete all of these and start over. We'll start off by creating the bottom layer. We'll create a new solid. We'll make it 900 by 900. Color doesn't matter at the moment. We're gonna make it a 3D layer and call it 3D map base. We're gonna apply to it 4-color gradient, and I'm using purple colors and turquoise. You can use whatever you would like, but for me that's the colors I chose. Light blue or on the edge of turquoise. And I'm blending it to 200. Just play around with it a bit. Next I apply a grid to it. Set the corners to 800 by 800. Set the border to 3 and the color to mid-toned blue. Put to the dark side and set the blender mode to overlay so we can see the 4-color gradient beneath it. Now I'm gonna set the Z position to 20 and I'm gonna apply to it my opacity flickering preset. And if I'll open it up, you can see it's just made of 6 keyframes set to different values: 50, 25, 40, 80 till you get to 100. It creates a nice fast opacity flickering transition. Let's create a quick preview so you can see. This preset is going to be bundled in the project file. Next we'll create the color map. And for the color map we're going to make new compositions, so Control N, we'll call it color map, and we'll make it 900 by 900, 25 pixel frame rate, and the duration is 15 as well. In the assets folder under stills you can find the displacement map, which is just a fractal noise effect created inside Photoshop and tweaked a bit. You can get the same result inside After Effects if you wish. And we're going to set its duration to 6 seconds and 9 frames. By the way, by pressing Alt and End bracket I can set the end of the layer, as well as Alt and open bracket to set the beginning of the layer. So just a quick tip there for you. Control Y to create a new solid. Color doesn't matter, make it the same size as the composition, and we select to start from the end of the first layer. Let's rename stuff here. We'll call this one map 01 and this one will be map 02. Let's design map 02. Let's apply to it fractal noise. Now here's the setting we're going to use. We're going to use fractal type dynamic. As you can remember, I'm looking to create this sort of terrain, which is a rocky, pointy terrain. We'll set the invert on. We'll switch the overflow to clip. Let's take it down to transform. We'll set the rotation to 10 Now I can run through all these parameters because that's the result I've got after experimenting quite a bit. I do suggest you feel free to experiment. We'll set the scale to 70. We'll set the offset turbulence to 303 and 304. We'll set the complexity to 10. The subsettings, let's toggle those down. We'll set the sub influence to 75%, the sub scaling to 75 as well, and the sub rotation to -10. We'll set the sub offset to 290 by 323. And that's it. That's the basic map 2. Let's create a new adjustment layer. Control-Alt-Y. We'll call it 4-color gradient, which is exactly what we're going to apply to it. And once again, we're going to use light blues and turquoise and light purples. We'll set the blend mode to 200 and play with it a little bit. Now let's set the transfer mode to color. Now let's create the transition. Let's create a new solid. Control-Y. Once again, we are going to use purple, same dimensions. We'll call it transition. And to it, we're going to apply a rectangle mask. Let's switch to our rectangle tool and double click on it. We'll set the feather of the mask to 100. And since we don't want to see the edges beneath the transition layer, let's hit MM and increase the mask expansion until we don't see the edges anymore. Now we are going to animate the mask. So let's create a keyframe for the mask path in 0 seconds, and in 5 seconds just double click on it and drag it to the bottom until you don't see any more of the transition. We'll go to 10 frames later, set another keyframe to maintain the same position, and animate back over 1 second. So 6 seconds and 10 frames. We'll copy this one and paste it. And we'll animate again. The second transition is a lot faster, so we'll animate it over 2 seconds. Copy this keyframe and paste it. Okay, let's actually mark all of those. Right click on them, keyframe assistant, easy ease, or F9 on the keyboard. Close this up and let's move on. We'll create a new adjustment layer, Control-Alt-Y, and we'll call it Transition Effects. We'll create a nice rectangle mask for it, about quarter the size of the composition. And to this mask, we're gonna add levels, CC vector blur, curves, and scatter. Now let's start setting up those effects. Let's start off with levels. We're gonna set the gamma to 2. Close this up. Let's open up CC vector blur. We'll set the amount to 130, and that's it for the vector blur. Let's open up curves. We'll create a nice S kind of shape here to get a bit more contrast in the picture. Close this up and open up scatter and set the scatter amount to 62, and we'll set the grain to vertical. We'll adjust the mask feather here. Let's unlink it and feather out over the Y value, let's say 25 or so, maybe even 100. Now we want the mask to be halfway between the transition and the maps beneath it, so we'll need to animate it accordingly. So let's reveal the keyframes for the transition animation, hit U to reveal the keyframes. At this point, let's reveal the mask here, set a keyframe. We don't want to see it at all, and at this point it needs to be down here. Mark those keyframes, right click on them, keyframe assistant, easy ease, and we get our nice transition here. Very cool. Okay, now let's just copy these keyframes as well. So at this point in time it needs to hold still, animate back, so copy this one and paste it, and animate back in again. So copy this one and paste it here. And we get a nice transition. Very cool. One last thing, we don't want to have any displacement in the edges. We'll create a new solid, Control-Y, again purple, and we'll call it frame. And to frame, we're going to add a nice rounded rectangle mask. So double click on it, hit F. We'll feather out about 20, hit MM so we can scale the mask expansion in. Oh, and of course we need to subtract the mask. And why don't I see anything here? Oh, because I've accidentally marked preserve underline transparency for the map 1. So yeah, there it is. A nice transition in and out. Very cool. Okay, so that will be our color map base. Move back to our 3D scanner. We'll drag in our color map. Now, so we can see how things are going to look here. Let's create a new camera. Control Alt Shift C. We'll make it 50 millimeters and set the focal length to 52, which will create an actually 52 millimeter camera. We're going to create a new null object. Control Alt Shift Y and rename it to Cam Null. Make it a 3D layer and connect the camera to it. Now we'll set the rotation for the camera null to 60 for the X, minus 45 for the Y, and minus 25 for the Z. And let's repeat the animation we had here before. At 15 frames, we'll mark the Y and Z. Right click on those and keyframe assistant easy ease. And at 5 seconds, we'll set the Y to 30 and the Z to 16. Okay, now let's apply freeform. To remind you, I am using DigiFX Freeform for this portion of the tutorial, and later on I will use the Freeform version 2, which will be a whole lot faster. Here's the animation we get at the moment. No extrusion, nice smooth animation, but no extrusion at the moment. Okay, so now let's hit Shift P to reveal the position. At this point we'll set a keyframe for the position, and at this point we'll just drag it back a bit on the Z-axis. We can also drag it back here. Okay, so we get the whole thing inside the frame. Mark those, right click on them, keyframe assistant, easy ease. Now, let's see how we can extrude this thing, shall we? To extrude this, we'll need to create an extrusion map or a displacement map, which will be black and white. And to do that, we'll duplicate color map and rename it to displacement map. And let's open that up. Since we already got everything set up for us, all we need to do at the moment is just delete the 4-color gradient, since we do need to use black and white to displace our terrain scan. And I probably should have mentioned this before, but now is better than ever. I'm using a 32 bits project. That allows me to get a lot more stages between the black and white, so a lot more values of gray. If I would use 8 bits, so if I alt click on this one, you can see it here, a really rough transition. And if I switch it to 16, I'll get smoother transition, and 32 will give me even smoother than that. So remember to use 16 or 32. We deleted the 4-color gradient. We need to delete the transition FX since we don't really need it. And we need to change the transition layer to black. So if we'll hit Ctrl Shift Y and change it to black, and make sure you're not affecting all the layers, so unmark affect all layers. So now we're affecting only this layer. And we need to change the frame color as well. We need to change it to a nice gray. I used this hex number 131313, which is a dark gray, and this will be our displacement map. One last thing I forgot about the fractal noise for the map 2 is to set the contrast to 200 on both the displacement map and the color map. So let's make sure we do that. That will give us a nice, more interesting look. Now let's go back to our 3D scanner and drop in our displacement map. We don't need to see it. And let's start tweaking a bit the freeform properties. Under 3D mesh quality, we're going to set the mesh subdivision to 200 and the anti-aliasing to low. Now under displacement control, we're going to set the displacement layer to displacement map, which will give us our nice extrusion, as you can see here. At the second map, the displacement height is a bit too rough, so at 6 seconds and 10 frames, I'll make sure to create a keyframe for the displacement map, and 1 frame later, I'll set it to half that size, 150. So I'll get a nicer scan, a very nice scan. And I just want to show you why I've set the meshed subdivision to 200. If I'll right click on it and reset it, you'll get a much uglier displacement. Now remember, I'm using the effects freeform, which is bundled with CS5, a free version. And let's see how fast that is. I'm using, by the way, a very fast computer. I'm using an i7 processor with a 16 gigabyte RAM and a very fast graphic card. Let's see how fast that works. Now this is real time, okay? I'm not editing this in any way. So it's not bad. And remember, this is a very fast computer I'm using. It's not extremely bad. It's okay. Okay, so this is enough. Okay. A very nice displacement. It wasn't that fast. In the main composition, when we'll use it with all our other effects, it will be a whole lot slower. I would like to show you the same composition, only this time I'm going to use the Freeform AE version 2, and you can tell for yourself how quick that is. And this is the very same composition, and as you can see, I'm now using Freeform version 2. I've changed absolutely nothing. So let's do a quick preview and see how fast that is. And as you can see, this is a lot faster. I mean, this is like, I'm no expert and I'm lousy at math, but this must be like 5 or 6 times faster. I mean, that was amazing. Actually, that was 8 times faster, I think. So yeah, this, as you can see, Freeform version 2 is an amazing product. And even though you can get the same result using the free version, if you value your time, you should really consider purchasing this version because this is fast. Now, one thing I would like to clarify is that Freeform version 2 has not dependency nor does it benefit from the GPU. Freeform version 2 is all CPU stuff with just some excellent optimization to the source code. And just to top it all off, we shouldn't forget the Freeform Pro, which is even faster than this one, and of course it has more features. Well, that's it for me for today, good folks. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Once again, my name is Ram Ben Avraham, and I'll see you next time.